this week on Cruisin' New England. In the swinging 1960s, everything British was in. The Beatles, British sports cars, and of course, British motorcycles. The Triumph. I'm Paul Manette, and I want to welcome you to another edition of Cruisin' New England. Today we're in Western Massachusetts to meet up with a guy who loves Triumph motorcycles. He's got a terrific collection and a whole lot of memorabilia, and you're going to see it here on Cruisin' New England. All my life, I've been cruising New England, meeting great people, visiting amazing places, and discovering wonderful classic and custom car collections, nostalgic automobilia, and so much more. Come on and join our adventure. I'm Paul Manette. Let's go cruising. Closed captioning for Cruisin' New England on Nesson is being brought to you by New England Recycling. Waste put to work.
This episode of Cruisin' New England with Paul Manette is brought to you by McMulkin Chevrolet, New England's largest volume Corvette dealer.
Is this how your insurance company sees the value of your collector car?
Hi, I'm Jim Grundy, president of Grundy Worldwide Collector Car Insurance. With a Grundy policy, the value of your car never goes down. We offer superior agreed value coverage with no deductions for age, wear and tear, or depreciation. If you own an antique, classic, muscle car, or even street rod, you need to learn more. Call us today or visit us at grundy.com.
Find out what's happening. Get up-to-date information as I travel throughout New England and beyond. To get exclusive information and behind-the-scenes photos, join me on Facebook. Hi, I'm Paul Manette, and I want to tell you about my new book, Collections American Style. I've teamed up with Berkshire Hills Publishing to create this beautiful full-color limited edition book. It features hundreds of full-color photographs, collector profiles, and historical tidbits. You'll see some of the finest automobile collections in the country, and memorabilia from the Wizard of Oz to the world's largest Kodak camera collection. Reserve your copy today at cruisingNewEngland.com.
Make it McMulkin Chevrolet, New England's largest volume new Corvette dealership.
While cruising New England, check out McMulkin, where there's always 250 new Corvettes to choose from. And a large selection of rare vintage classics, like this 1967 427 Tri-Power Corvette, or this classic 1969 Z28 Camaro, to a 1962 340 horsepower Corvette. Check them out at McMulkin.net.
The Thompson Auto Group.
We're back in Western Massachusetts, and I'm with Mike Zucco. How do you do?
Nice to meet you.
People tell me you're Mr. Triumph motorcycle. Is that true?
I have a few.
How did it all begin, Mike?
Well, when I was a senior in high school in 1977, I got my first Triumph motorcycle, which was very similar to this 73 Tiger 750, but this is not the one, but very much the same motorcycle.
Well, tell me a little bit about these bikes here.
These three bikes are the later series of Triumph motorcycles, which represent the first one that I had, similar to this one. They came with disc brakes and such, and that's how they varied from some of the earlier bikes. And they were a move forward in an effort to keep the company going in a competitive market with the Japanese.
Well, can you give me a little history of the Triumph motorcycle?
I think in '38 is when they started to make an impact, and they were really heavy in the States in the 60s, of course. 70s they were still pretty strong, and lastly 82 was the last motorcycles of the real original company that sold here, and of course it has been rejuvenated.
Mike, give me some performance aspects of these bikes.
Well, these three here are 750s, as I said. Top speed around 115 if everything is in top nick. And like I said, the 5-speed transmission made it much more user-friendly. They handled very well, as they always did. Even back in the 60s, they were renowned for their handling capabilities. They still sold well for a traditional motorcycle in the 70s, right up to the end. 78, 79, they were actually quite popular. They seemed to have a resurgence back then, and people just liked them because they were historic and they liked the heritage.
So Mike, what are we going to see next?
Well, we move down this way, Paul. I have a group of 3 motorcycles here that are smaller CC. These are 500cc motorcycles. Three different trim styles. This was a Daytona 500, a road-going motorcycle named after, of course, the American Daytona race. It won in 1967. And then they made it in a scrambler version with the higher pipes. And in 1973 and 74, they made what was called a Trophy Trail. And that bike was made specifically so Triumph could compete in the ISDT, the International Six-Day Trials, which was held in Cheshire, Mass.
Wow.
So it's kind of a Berkshire bike.
Very good. So let's tell our audience what's the difference. They have the side pipes because they're built for the road.
Correct. The lower pipes, the twin carburetors, a little bit more of a top speed. It's really just a smaller Bonneville, the Bonneville being like what we already looked at. And then it gets into a single carb, high pipe. These bikes were commonly raced back in the 60s. They turned them into dirt bikes, motocross bikes, flat track bikes, because you couldn't buy a dedicated motorcycle back then.
So you had to customize them.
You had to make your dirt bike. Your dirt bike was something you took lights off. And these things lent themselves very well to it. And this one was almost a dirt bike, but it had to be road legal for the 6-day trials.
Wow. So you got some historical pieces here. So Mike, let's continue along the line.
All right, let's go down to our third group here, which is actually the Tridents, the 3-cylinder series. They were made from 1968 to 1975. This particular yellow and black motorcycle is a 74, and so is the other one. The one in the middle is a 76 Trident, which was the last year, which also incorporated electric start, double disc brake. And it was the last effort to modernize that bike in an effort to keep it on the bubble with the Japanese, but it didn't work.
Why are you going after all these Triumph motorcycles?
Well, other than that was my first street bike, I just enjoy them, and I've learned to tinker with them, and it's very rewarding.
Mike, put your love aside for the Triumph. Why did the Japanese market kill this bike?
Well, they were very ingenious. In the early days, they came over here and they would go to a Triumph, a BSA, Norton dealership, and they would say, we have smaller CC motorcycles that would be very nice introductory rides. Could we sell them in your facility? And we would get more people on your bikes. And that's all they built at the time, and Triumph and BSA thought it was great because it would get more people on their big bikes. But what they started doing was making big bikes that were oil tight, early electric starters, directionals. You know, they modernized them very quickly, but they didn't have the charm. But they were good for everyday use and commuting, and it was very practical. So they worked.
You know, Mike's got a lot of stories to tell us. He's going to show us a lot more bikes when we come back from Western Massachusetts, right here on Cruisin' New England.
This episode of Cruisin' New England with Paul Manette is brought to you by McMulkin Corvette, where there is always 250 Corvettes to choose from.
Order a bunch of parts to get ready for the car show this weekend?
And I got a hot deal, too.
You think? Think again.
Oh, man.
Tired of back orders? You need NPD. With 4 strategically located superstores, most orders arrive within 1 to 3 business days. National Parts Depot has quality restoration parts for Mustang, Camaro, Chevelle, GTO, Firebird, Ford, and Chevy truck. For your free catalog, go online or call toll free.
Do you have a child with food allergies? Does your school need help managing food allergies? I'm Gina Minette-Lee, a nationally recognized food allergy author, educator, and consultant. I provide a common-sense, fact-based approach to managing food allergies at home and at school. For more information, visit foodallergyconsulting.com.
We're the Hill family, and we are Imperial Worldwide. We are the largest insulation supplier in Central Mass. We specialize in insulation, vinyl siding, seamless gutters, and closet-made shelving. And we are going to save you money. We're the Hills!
I'm Lieutenant Gary Scott. Green Mountain State has beautiful sights for all to enjoy. To protect our great state, Vermont will not tolerate drug driving. Drug recognition experts are being deployed statewide to keep our roads safe. If you get high and drive, you will be arrested for DUI.
Your special moments are something to remember. For weddings, portraits, and special events, contact Sparks Fly Photography.
Would you like more information about the Cruisin' New England Car Show series? Go to our website at cruisingNewEngland.com.
Celebrate the Big E's 100th anniversary, September 16th to October 2nd in West Springfield, Massachusetts.
So we're back here at Cruisin New England with Mike Zucco. Hey, Mike, I guess you really do your own work.
Well, I've been working on them forever, and I do everything but the board job.
What are you doing with this one?
This is getting a freshening up. It's going to be an original unrestored paint job bike, I think, in the end. It's a 1974 Bonneville. Disc brake front, drum rear, one of my favorite combos. But it'll be a nice everyday rider.
But you're going to bring it back to original?
I'm not going to repaint it, so it's going to wear its original colors.
So Mike, how long do you think it's going to take before you have this finished?
Well, give or take. I mean, it'll probably be about a year before I throw a leg over it and ride it. But
now I understand you have quite a bit more cycles that you're working on.
Oh, there's a few that are due to get looked at in the other room over there also.
So Mike, what do you got on deck in the other room?
Well, in the other room we've got a couple of 79 Bonnevilles. There's a 73 Tiger similar to the one we saw over next door. It was like my first bike. There's another trophy trail bike in there. 68 TR6, quite an assortment.
Hey, you get your work cut out for you, don't you?
As I choose, yeah.
So what are you figuring on, about a year apiece to restore those?
If I keep at it, but I'll take a substantial break in between.
So it could be 10 or 15 years before you get to those, right?
At the most. So Paul, outside the shop here we have 4 bikes, mechanically restored but cosmetically still intact. Original paint, showing some wear and patina and age, but that's a 76 Tiger, which still needs a little bit of work yet, but it has an original look. And this is another Trident similar to the one I had over next door, but this isn't restored. Original paint, but mechanically restored. This is one of their smaller motorcycles, which was a 200cc Cub. Trail bike is what they was used for, hunting, fishing, go anywhere bike in its day. And the blue 650, it was a scrambler model, 69. Also kind of a universal motorcycle in its day. Street bike, dirt bike, whatever you want it to be.
So Mike, all these motorcycles, is there something that you're still looking for?
Well, just whatever might pop up. I mean, I think I have enough, to tell you the truth, but every time I think I have enough, I think I don't have enough.
Mike, is there such a thing as the holy grail of a Triumph motorcycle?
Well, there's some that fetch a lot of money. I mean, one that I wouldn't mind having would be a 59 Bonneville. It was a first year Bonneville, and I was born in 59 also. I do not have one, but that would be desirable.
So there is something that you're looking for.
That could flick the switch.
Mike, I understand your property has some untold stories.
Well, it's very interesting. This property in the 20s and 30s was an automotive junkyard. The entire property was covered with cars, and all of these artifacts here are things that you find when you dig a hole to plant a tree or plant some flowers.
Well, you look at some of this stuff. Now, you talk about a license plate with patina. This one's got it.
That's it. It says 1940 New York World's Fair. I mean, anything from that to wrenches to a crank to start an old car. Some of these vacuum-operated windshield wiper operators, hubcaps, everything on down the line. Some nice radiator caps, very decorative for the day.
So how did you find them?
Certainly not on purpose, just poking around. If you were to dig a hole where you're standing, you'd probably find something interesting.
You have any trouble mowing the lawn here, or?
It'll come up every now and then. You'll hear something, and then you'll find something nice.
So Mike, I know you have a favorite thing that you want to show me, so let's have a look at it. It's up on this table?
You're absolutely correct, and all of these horns were also buried in the ground here, and some of them with a little bit of cleaning up and such, especially this Auga horn. Works like the day it was made.
So is this the brass section here of the Mike Zucco Orchestra?
That's it, right there.
Mike, a great motorcycle collection deserves a great helmet collection, and you certainly got one.
Well, it's not very large, but it's an interesting collection of different vintage helmets here. Some street helmets, some easy rider looking helmets, flames, other memorabilia of the motorcycle garage.
What years do you think they're out of?
Mostly late 60s, early 70s.
And how about that leather one out there that looks like a pilot's hat?
That's 80s probably, actually. It's a repop. The oldest helmet is probably this English helmet here with the leather sides. That's like 30s.
Well, you certainly have a little bit of everything from this property.
That's it. So Paul, would you like to try on a vintage helmet?
Not really.
What do you mean not really? How about this is more your style?
You know, I think you might have something there.
You could take those back to the
How are we
Cape
looking there, Mike?
Excellent.
When we come back, we're going to flash back to a fabulous Indian motorcycle collection on Cruisin New England. We're back, and we're revisiting the Museum of Springfield History's Indian Motorcycle Collection.
We're back, and we're in Springfield, Massachusetts at the Springfield Museum of History. And I'm here with Guy McLean, and you are the director.
Yes. This museum is dedicated to the history of Springfield and the region here. And this was an area that a lot of great inventions came out of. Primarily the invention of the first automobile and the development of a great automobile industry and Indian motorcycle. This was the home of Indian Motorcycle, once the largest motorcycle company in the world. And this is what this museum is all dedicated to.
You know, I'm very excited to learn more about these automobiles and especially the Indian motorcycle. So I guess that's where we're going to start.
Well, yes, the Indian motorcycles, this first case shows it started with two men, Oscar Hedstrom and George Hindy. George Hindy was, before he got into making Indian motorcycles, he was a great bicycle racer. He was the American champion between 1882 and 1886. He started a bicycle company. Bicycle companies started experimenting with putting motors on bicycles, and we can see that he formed a partnership with Carl Oscar Hedstrom, and you can see basically this is a bicycle with a one-cylinder motor. And what's amazing about this, a lot of people think Indian made the very first motorcycle in America. Not true. There were motorcycles before Indian, but the thing that Indian is known for is Indian made the first commercially successful motorcycle in America, and you're looking at one right here. This was the one that Hedstrom himself owned when he left the company, when he retired from the company. And so it really is a great example of his early design. But you can see it still has the pedals because that's how you started the motorcycle at that time.
Or if you ran out of gas.
Yeah, there we go. You could pedal it. Okay, this is the first commercial Indian. They started making them in 1901. This is a 1904. But here we can see this is one made in 1913. By 1913, we're looking at a motorcycle that we can recognize clearly as, a motorcycle of the modern era. And by this point, by 1913, Indian is making 32,000 motorcycles a year. It's the largest company, largest motorcycle maker in the world by far. Harley-Davidson started in business in 1904, about 3 years behind Indian, but they're not half as large as Indian at this point. Indian is a much bigger company at this point. And you can see this is a great example of what they made in 1913. And Oscar Hedstrom, the founder who made the motors, the earlier motorcycles, designed this motorcycle as well. These are very interesting in this section here. In this section we show four-cylinder motorcycles. In the 1930s, most of the motorcycles before the 1930s were two-cylinder motorcycles, but in the 1930s there was an interest in building a more powerful, bigger motorcycle, and they went to four cylinders. Indian actually had a little trouble with selling these because it was the Depression, 1930s, that was the Great Depression, and the four cylinders were larger motorcycles, more expensive, so they had trouble. They didn't make a lot of money off of them at first. But they were really popular with the police. The policemen who used motorcycles a lot in that day and age loved the big four cylinders, big, powerful, fast motorcycles, and they were very comfortable as well. Then also, too, we've got this. This is a 1942 military motorcycle, World War II. Basically, this is a 1942 civilian, and this is a 1942 military motorcycle. Now, the thing about Indians in the World War II, very interesting story. The military came out with a request for the motorcycle companies, Harley and Indian, to make 550cc motorcycles. That was the size of the motor. Indian said, okay, great. They complied. They made a 550cc. Harley ignored that specification of the military, made a 750cc. The reason the military had asked for the smaller one is because they thought they needed a smaller motorcycle for the front. But Harley ignored that, made a big, more powerful motorcycle. The American soldiers wound up liking the Harleys, the bigger Harleys, a lot more. And that meant that the demand for Indians, the military didn't go back. Even though the military had asked for the smaller motorcycles, it wound up penalizing Indian, and Indians' financial trouble started in World War II because they didn't get the military contracts.
Didn't they kind of put all their eggs into one basket with the military because of the slow sales?
Well, yeah, and that was part of the problem. In World War II, everybody was going into military sales. sales, and that was part of the problem. And because they didn't get a lot of the military sales, Harley got more of the military sales. That really hurt the company, and it didn't knock the company completely out, but it certainly was a blow and led to problems later on.
The great successes that Indian had, what happened?
The demise of Indian started in the 40s with the situation in World War II, but after World War II, in the late 40s and the early 50s, is really when the company started having major problems. Two main things caused the company to go out of business in 1953. The Aero motorcycle, which we see two examples, these two yellow Aero motorcycles here, were the motorcycle that they came out with in about 1947 and 1948. And it really is a very unique and very forward-looking design. But it was a little bit too ahead of its time. It had some mechanical problems that they didn't work out, and it got a bad reputation, and that really hurt sales. And then finally, the other thing that killed the company was something we know of today, we're very familiar with today. Labor was cheaper overseas. So they shut down the plant in 1953 in Springfield.
But it'll always go down as one of the most popular motorcycles in the history of automotive industry.
Absolutely. It was one of the great early brands, or one of the great early products in the first half of the 20th century. It was involved in racing. It's a part of American folklore. It's one of those great iconic brands that will be valued and cherished by motorcycle enthusiasts for many, many decades to come.
More motorcycles with Mike Zucco on Cruisin' New England when we come back.
When you're visiting Vermont, never drive while distracted or impaired, and always remember to buckle up. That's the best way to ensure everyone gets home safely.
Make it McMulkin Chevrolet, New England's largest volume new Corvette dealership.
While cruising New England, check out McMulkin, where there's always 250 new Corvettes to choose from. And a large selection of rare vintage classics, like this 1967 427 Tri-Power Corvette, or this classic 1969 Z28 Camaro, to a 1962 340 horsepower Corvette. Check them out at McMulkin.net.
The Thompson Auto Group.
Imperial Worldwide insulation vinyl siding, copper and seamless aluminum gutters, closet-made shelving systems, and zero-clearance fireplaces. We strive to make the building process easy and fun. Check out Cruisin' New England Productions' website. You'll see updated information about our fun car show series, including the Magical Mystery Cruise, the Circle of Champions, the Super Wheel Showdown, and the Spooktacular Cruisin' Classic. Also subscribe to Cruisin' New England magazine. We feature some of the hottest rides in the Northeast, along with event listings and a whole lot more. Don't miss a single issue. And if you want more information about sponsorships, advertising, or personal appearances by Paul Manette, email us at cruisenewengland@aol.com.
Building Maintenance Services. We've been servicing the Northeast since 1990. We service and repair revolving doors, automatic and handicap doors. We can help you design an attractive, efficient entrance you can be proud of. Protect your investment and secure your property with yearly maintenance contracts and 24-hour service. Whether in office, medical, or commercial high-rise, we'll get the job done right for you. Building Maintenance Services.
Do you have a vintage car, boat, motorcycle, or airplane collection, along with some memorabilia? Would you like to be featured on our show? Email us at cruisenewengland@aol.com.
We're back in Western Massachusetts with Mike Zucco, and he's got to show us a lot more motorcycles.
Well, Paul, the one you're standing next to now is what they call a Thunderbird. And Ford actually had to get the rights to use that Thunderbird logo on their cars. And if you notice, it's the same script, but this was one of their early touring bikes. This model is a 65. Not very popular in the States because everybody wanted the high performance motorcycles. And they've got a lot of body work on them that was commonly removed and then missing in the United States, but this one is complete, wears its original paint, only a mechanical restoration. For a motorcycle of its age, it's a pleasure to drive and ride.
Now, you as a collector, do you see it going to, let's get these bikes and restore them, or keeping them all original?
Well, it depends on what state it's in, but I've got a great love lately for patina and original unrestored bikes, because it's original paint is only original once.
Exactly.
It's easy to make them look nice. It's not easy, but you can do it. Right. But you can't do the other. All right, Paul, let me show you the next one. This is a custom bobber that I built. I like to call it a bobber because I'm not a big chopper fan. It has standard frame geometry, therefore it handles well. It does have a hardtail rear. It incorporates disc brakes front and rear, so it stops well as opposed to some of the dangerous choppers that people build. It has a 755 speed engine and a 1970 frame. It's a nice little bobber to ride, amazingly comfortable considering it's a hardtail. Flat black paint, so it has that sinister look.
Nice what is this, the rat rod of motorcycles?
Very good, yes, it is a rat rod. Yep. And speaking of rat rods, this is a motorcycle that mechanically is restored from the crankshaft out. It wears a tank that I found at a local junkyard, and I painted the fenders to match, so it's sort of a false patina, but it is a rat, and I call it the rat.
Looks great though.
It's a nice machine, runs top notch, and if we move down, these three, including the rat actually, are all 1966 Triumphs. The white and red one is very stock. This one is a semi-custom because it came to me modified, so I put it in kind of a period race bike trim.
Mike, I can't believe my eyes. Is that a Honda?
Where? Why, it is. Actually, that Honda there was my son's bike. He acquired an interest in motorcycling a little bit later in life, and in his 30s. And even though he was exposed to a lot of bikes all his life, that's what he chose, and we modified it, as you can see. And it's a great old bike. It's a 1974.
You must have been delighted that he showed an interest in bikes.
Oh, we had a good time building that. Yeah, we had some struggles, probably a couple arguments.
It's a story that's going to live with him for the rest of his life,
sure.
I'm sure.
Yes, both good and bad.
And I see kind of a modern Triumph up here.
Yeah, that's a 2010 Speed Triple, which is their modern sport bike. Still a very standard seating position. Very comfortable bike, even though it's zippy fast, and it's sport bike capable. The next bike is out of the mold a little bit too because it's a Ducati, an Italian motorcycle. It's a 750, smaller cc displacement, but a very nice motorcycle to ride, and nothing sounds as cool as these do. And lastly, it's a 2012 Triumph Scrambler, which I bought with the intent of never washing it and just using it as a utilitarian motorcycle. And nothing says that like a milk crate.
That's awesome. You have quite a collection here, Mike, and I want to thank you for sharing with my viewers. And it's a collection that I've never seen before. To have a guy that owns so many of one style of a motorcycle is a treat for me and my audience. And I want to thank you for sharing it with me today.
Thank you very much.
I've had a great day here today in Western Massachusetts with my buddy Mike Zucco, and I want to thank him for sharing his motorcycle collection and memorabilia with me. I'm Paul Manette. Until next time, I'll be cruising New England.